For nearly 80 years, a single currency ruled them all. Across the deserts of the Middle East, through the ports of Asia, from the skyscrapers of New York to the markets of Nairobi, every trade, every loan, every barrel of oil bowed to the dollar. But what happens when half the world finally says, enough? What happens when the nations that feed the world, power the world, and manufacture the world decide to build their own system? Because that moment isn't theoretical anymore. It's unfolding, quietly, strategically, and with the weight of a century of frustration behind it. They call it a brick. And if their next move works, the financial order you were born into, the dollar's global empire, could crack apart right in front of your eyes. The story begins with a simple idea. Simple, yet revolutionary. In the 21st century, power doesn't belong to the ones who command armies. It belongs to the ones who command settlements. The flow of money that slips across borders, the commodities traded at sea, the credits written in digital ink. These invisible currents define empires. And for decades, they all ran through one channel, the US dollar. After World War II, the dollar became more than America's currency. It became the world's oxygen. Thanks to the Bretton Woods system, global trade was pegged to the dollar, and the dollar was pegged to gold. When that link snapped in 1971, the world didn't turn away. It doubled down. The petrodollar system locked oil and commodities into dollar-based trade, making the currency indispensable for every nation that wanted to function. It was brilliant. Domination disguised as stability. If you control the world's currency, you control the world's behavior. With a single policy, without firing a single bullet, America could sanction, isolate, or reward any nation it chose. Banks in London, Hong Kong, and Dubai all spoke the same language: green. But history has never allowed a monopoly to live forever. As the US kept printing, borrowing, and inflating to keep the machine running, other nations watched in silence. Nations that dug the minerals, drilled the oil, built the factories, yet had to sell their lifeblood through someone else's currency. That frustration turned into strategy, and that strategy turned into BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. At first, BRIC was just a cute acronym, a label invented by a Goldman Sachs economist in 2001. But the countries inside that label saw something deeper: a shared irritation, a shared ceiling, a shared desire to stop playing a game with rules written in Washington. They wanted autonomy. They wanted influence. They wanted a world where value wasn't dictated by someone else's keyboard. So slowly, quietly, over 20 years, they started building exactly that. China became the world's factory. India became its software brain. Russia held the energy. Brazil and South Africa held the resources. Together, in purchasing power, they grew into an economic bloc larger than the G7. And yet, despite their rise, their economy still depended on a Western financial system, the same system that punished anyone who challenged it. When Russia was cut off from SWIFT in 2022, it wasn't just a punishment. It was a warning shot to the entire world. If a country could be unplugged from the global economy overnight, then, truly, no one was safe. And the message sent to the rest of the world was brutally clear. Money isn't neutral. Money is a weapon. So the BRICS chose to build their own. Now imagine this: a few years from today, a BRICS summit in Shanghai. The lights dim, the cameras lock in, and leaders step onto the stage to announce what they call a new financial architecture. Their vision? A digital currency backed not by promises, but by power, by real commodities, real energy, real work. They unveil The BRICS Reserve Unit, a digital currency tied to a basket of assets: gold, oil, rare earth minerals, and the national currencies of member states. Not designed for speculation, but for trade. A parallel network that sits completely outside the rails of Western banking. No SWIFT, no Federal Reserve, no Wall Street middlemen. A payment sent from Rio can reach Shanghai in seconds. Settled on a BRICS-run blockchain immune to sanctions, immune to oversight. To the public it sounds technical. To the markets it sounds seismic. Because for the first time in modern history, the dollar's monopoly has a real challenger. The West laughs at first, calls it symbolic, impractical, a headline stunt, nothing more. But within months, something unexpected happens. Saudi Arabia signs a long-term oil deal, not in dollars, but in the new BRICS currency. India quietly begins paying for Russian energy through the new system. And suddenly, the joke doesn't feel so funny anymore. African nations begin using the new system to trade minerals with China. And suddenly, a slice of global commerce, first 10%, then 20%, starts drifting away from the dollar's network. That's when the tremors begin. Currency traders panic. The dollar dips, then wobbles. US Treasury yields surge as investors demand higher returns to keep holding America's debt. Emerging markets quietly diversify their reserves, trimming their dollar holdings without making a sound. It doesn't collapse overnight. Empires never do. But like a massive ship, the tilt begins. America can still print money, but now inflation spreads through the world in a very different way. Sanctions lose their teeth. A financial dominance, once invisible, begins to crack in plain sight. And with every transaction that bypasses the dollar, the illusion of permanence fades just a little more. But this isn't just a finance story. This is a civilization story. For centuries, global power flowed westward, from Rome to London, then to Washington. Now it shifts eastward, not through war, but through trade, through the quiet machinery of settling value. China's Belt and Road Initiative is binding Asia, Africa, and Europe with ports, railways, and fiber optic veins. Add a financial system to this network, and you get something Rome could only dream of: an empire without borders, not upheld by swords, but by settlements. BRICS isn't just minting a currency. It's creating a new language of money, one that speaks to the majority of the planet living outside the Western promise. For nations like Indonesia, Iran, Nigeria, and Egypt, who see the Western system as exclusive and weaponized, this isn't rebellion, it's relief, it's release. We like to think we've moved beyond history. But what if we are repeating it, just swapping coins for pixels? Rome diluted its silver. We're digitizing our dollars. And the ending could be the same, only faster. History doesn't repeat itself word for word. Power, trust, and money always rhyme with each other. And right now, we're living through a shift so massive that future historians will talk about it the same way we talk about the fall of Rome. Only this time, there are no marching legions, no burning cities, only data, lines of code replacing gold coins. This is the digital money revolution, Rome collapsing in real time. For thousands of years, money wasn't just paper or code. It was trust you could hold in your hand. Gold, silver, salt, grain. Real, tangible things that carried value because they were scarce. Rome understood this deeply. Its economy ran on the denarius, a silver coin that held not just value, but credibility. When a Roman soldier held one, he trusted it the same way we trust the numbers on our bank screen today. It was a promise, backed by the empire's discipline, stability, and power. But empires always grow beyond what they can sustain. Armies expand, borders stretch, costs explode. And when taxes can't keep up, leaders always find the same shortcut. They dilute the money. Rome began quietly melting down its coins, adding cheaper metals while pretending nothing had changed. At first, no one noticed. Then everyone did. And once they noticed, trust cracked. Prices surged. Soldiers demanded higher pay. Trade slowed to a crawl. The world's most powerful economy had built its empire on metal, and now the metal had lost its soul. Money lost its meaning, and Rome began to rot from within. Centuries later, humanity replaced silver with paper, banknotes supposedly backed by gold sitting in vaults. But the game never truly changed. From Spain's treasure fleets to Britain's mighty pound, every empire eventually discovered the same dangerous trick. Print promises you can't keep. In 1971, the United States made it official. President Nixon ended the dollar's convertibility into gold. The night real money died and faith-based money took its place. For the first time in history, the entire global economy rested not on substance, but on trust alone. Governments could print, borrow, and spend without limits. Central banks became the new emperors, minting wealth not from metal, but from keystrokes. And for decades, it worked, or at least it looked like it worked. But the illusion of endless prosperity always cracks. It cracked in Rome. It cracked in Weimar. And now it's cracking again. Except this time, the crisis isn't in coins or paper. It's in code. Money has always evolved alongside power. When Europe shifted from monarchies to parliaments, gold coins gave way to government-backed banknotes. When industry rose, banks became the engines of nations. And now, with data becoming the new frontier, money itself is going digital, cut loose from paper and physical reality alike. Today, we've stepped into a new era, the digital empire. Money no longer clinks in our pockets or folds in our wallets. It shimmers on screens as pure data, intangible, invisible, instant. Every payment, every trade, every loan is now part of a vast digital web. It feels modern, efficient, seamless, safe. But beneath the glow of our screens, the same ancient danger has returned: dependence on trust. We trust banks to hold it. We trust governments to value it. We trust algorithms to protect it. And few of us ever stop to ask, what happens when that trust breaks? Rome had silver. We have encryption. Both were seen as unbreakable. Both were only as strong as the belief behind them. When the pandemic hit in 2020, the world faced a crisis that crushed political, medical, and financial systems at once. Factories shuttered. Borders froze. Entire economies halted overnight. So what did our leaders do? With a few clicks, they created trillions of dollars out of thin air. What took Rome centuries to debase, we accomplished digitally in a matter of months. Governments called it stimulus. Central banks called it support. The truth was simpler than anyone admitted. We weren't printing wealth. We were printing belief. And inflation followed. First denied, then redefined, and eventually accepted. But inflation isn't just about high prices. It's about value fading away. A slow theft of purchasing power that punishes savers and rewards debtors. It's a tax nobody votes for, and one that never disappears. For ordinary people, the impact was obvious. Groceries got more expensive. Housing drifted further out of reach, and savings bought less every single year. Politicians pointed fingers, but the quiet truth was this: every empire in history has done the same thing. When they get trapped by debt, they don't default on paper. They default in value. BRICS rising doesn't mean the West collapsing. It means balance, and maybe even accountability. A new system can't guarantee fairness, but it can guarantee change. And change is the one force the old order can't control. For centuries, money was a story we all agreed to believe. The dollar story was written in the ashes of war. The BRICS story is being written in the shadow of inequality. And the next chapter, whether stable or chaotic, will depend on what we learn from both. Empires fall the same way currencies do. Slowly at first, then all at once. And maybe the real collapse isn't financial at all. Maybe it's philosophical. The realization that no empire, no currency, no promise lasts forever. The day BRICS unveils its new system won't feel like an explosion. It will feel like a quiet shift. Screens will update, charts will move, and suddenly the foundations beneath our feet will feel different. We'll still swipe our cards, buy our coffee, check our accounts. But something deeper will have changed. The empire of paper will give way to an empire of code. And history will look back at this moment the way we look at 1971, as the day the meaning of money changed. Because here's the truth. The dollar didn't rule the world by force. It ruled by trust. And trust is the most fragile currency any empire ever holds. If BRICS builds a system people believe in, one that feels fairer, freer, or simply newer, the torch won't be passed through revolution. It'll be passed through choice. The world won't explode when it happens. It'll exhale. The future of money isn't American, Chinese, or Russian. It's multipolar, digital, and inevitable. The real question isn't whether BRICS will rise. It's whether the rest of us will be ready when they do. Because the next financial revolution won't be televised in blood. It will be streamed in code. And like every major transformation before it, most people won't notice it until it's already here.